Slaughtered. Many carbs were slaughtered at
There you go.
altar of Sano's locker. All right, so let's move on here because that's probably more than the Twins deserve at this point. Okay, so let's move over to little known fact. My 11-year-old daughter, the younger of my two daughters, and I are going to take in our first ever WNBA game, her first ever professional basketball game, period, men or women, in August. I believe it's the final Lynx home game of their regular season this season. And we're going to drag Brandon along with us and anybody else who wants to go. So I'm kind of looking forward to it. But I'll be honest, the thing that made me interested in it has really been Cheryl's show. And I don't want to get anybody in hot water here, Lonnie, but she does such a good job of, first place, I just think it's really cool that somebody of her stature in her sport, in sports, frankly, is doing that type of a show. And granted, she probably has an agenda that she's using the show to promote, and that's fine because what we get out of it is access the likes of which you would not see from a comparable coach in another sport. You know, you wouldn't see Belichick doing that show, and for example, and so that's really, really cool. And I think she does a good job on the show, and she's interesting and well spoken and all that stuff as well. So she has made me interested to the point where I want to go to a show, and all the credit to her. Are you guys wrapped up at all, or what's the awareness level around this WNBA All-Star game that's in Minneapolis next week or this week or whatever it is this week? Any? None? Crickets? Nothing.
I didn't know it was. I knew we had it. I didn't know it was next week. So
and
I'll give you that.
I'm just not a fan of professional basketball, whether that's NBA or WNBA.
Yeah.
I really enjoy college basketball, so I've actually kind of kept a little bit of an eye on Lindsay Whalen since she got the Gopher job. But pro basketball just really isn't much my thing.
I mean, I'll say this. My take on it is I get a kick out of listening to Coach talk because you can just tell the level that she's at in her profession.
Yeah.
And that's pretty cool, I think, to watch. You know, as somebody that, you know, I've run a sales organization, so coaching people and that type of thing, I get a lot out of that side of it. I'm with Lonnie. I'm not a huge NBA or WNBA fan. I watch college hoops. But I love listening to Coach Reeve talk. I mean, and honestly, like, who doesn't have an agenda, essentially,
of course,
in the mainstream media right now? So you can either choose to listen to that part of it or not, you know, like, move on. But I think that she brings a lot to the table from the leadership perspective and that kind of thing, and that's cool to listen to. So
for sure. And I think she is a great example of what I wish other coaches and athletes in the spotlight would kind of take up the flag a little bit for.
Yeah.
The Lynx, Coach Reeve, all the players, they are all about being role models and growing the game. And I think that is absolutely commendable. And I think a lot of other people in similar positions could take heed from that.
Well, and to the next point, it's just refreshing to not have to worry about, you know, like the NFL is so buttoned up, right? Like we get no information as fans, like no inside information. You know, I mean, if Yoder looks at Zimmer the wrong way in the press conference, he gets, you know, blasted for it. So it's kind of one of those things where it's really cool to see the access from professional athletes that are the best at what they do in the world, you know?
And Belichick was at it again. I don't know if you guys caught that, but somebody asked him about not playing that defensive back in the Super Bowl last year. And he's focused on the 2018 Patriots. Said that about 74 times. It's like, come on.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I'm looking forward to it. I'm excited to see what it's all about. And kudos to Coach Reeve. And even if this hasn't so far been the season that the Lynx would have liked to have had, you can't take away what they've done, and what they've done is nothing short of dynastic at this point. So, good for them. All right, let's move over to Lonnie and I talked about this the last two 2 summers, I think, where Vikings camp starts and nobody has anything to say about Vikings camp because it's the first 2 days of Vikings camp. However, obviously, we want to send a heartfelt condolences to the family and friends of Coach Sperano. That from by all accounts sounds like a pretty bad situation, and really one of those where the type of guy who was gone way before his time should have been. So
absolutely.
That's about all I have on Vikings at this point. So let's scoot over to hockey, and it looks like we have our team here, boys. I mean, we with today's signing, and we're recording here on Wednesday evening. With today's signing of Jason Zucker, 5.5 cap hit over 5 years, coupled with the Matt Dumba signing from a handful of days ago, $6 million for 5 years as well. It seems like there's about one open spot right now if you read Russo, and that should go to one of the sort of Greenway kind of Cunnin type of players, and that's really okay with me. I mean, the days of spending a lot of money kind of inefficiently and then being forced to play kids before they were ready because we needed to have people with smaller cap hits. It looks like that worm is turning a bit. That tide is going out, and I welcome that. Is that how you guys see the roster at this point in terms of the young kids as well?
I kind of want to see what we have with Cunnin and Greenway. Like there might not be room for both of them right out of the gate, but I wouldn't mind seeing both of them get some time right out of the chute and just see what's there.
Yeah. Lonnie, are you okay with 5.5 for Zucker for 5 and 6 for Dumba for 5?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of sounds like that's what the market was to bear, right?
Yep.
I mean, as the saying goes, something is only worth what somebody will pay for it, and
right.
I mean, it was. I don't know. It was the Zucker thing was kind of interesting. That negotiation was a little bit interesting to me because he is so tied to this community, and spouses and children and those sorts of things play into those. So,
yeah,
I don't know. I think it was pretty much inevitable that it was going to get done, and it probably landed about where the market is sitting right now. Nick, did you have thoughts on that or Dumba either?
No, and I felt a lot better about the Dumba deal after I read Russo's piece on it, explaining what the market was and why they were projecting, basically taking us through the rationale of Fenton to get that deal done at that price. Obviously relying on Shep Harder as well, still the best name in the Wild organization, Shep Harder. But so I feel a lot better about it at that point. And look, I mean, the bottom line is if he's scored, he's ranked higher amongst defensemen in scoring the last handful of years than he is ranked now amongst defensemen in terms of pay. So that to me spells value. Now, obviously, he's got to deliver on it. But but I like the first, I don't remember if it was 1 or 2 years where he doesn't have a no trade, because that means if he does plateau, they might be able to move him. That's good. And you notice that on the Zucker deal today, 5-year deal, he only has modified no trade protection the last 4 years, right? So I guess you could argue that Fenton bought himself sort of the 1-year option as well, that if he doesn't work out, then I guess you could move him at the deadline or something like that. If he suddenly shows that last year in a contract year he outperformed and he's never going to touch that again, whatever, right? We don't know that, but the point is, Fenton didn't just give with some of these deals in the past under Fletcher. It sort of felt like, well, why did that guy need a no trade? Does Fletcher, at times it felt like Fletcher didn't understand leverage, the concept of leverage.
Yeah.
And I didn't necessarily feel that way after reading and observing and about these two contracts.
I agree. Like I think that Zucker might have even given him a little bit of a hometown discount based on some of the numbers that Russo was throwing out. So, I mean, I think that was a good signing. The Dumba one, I think there's so many growing pains with some of these guys where we tend to think the grass is greener. And then you see some of the stats, and you're like, "Oh, maybe this guy is pretty solid." But we've been watching him, make dumb mistakes for 3-4 years now.
Right.
That's all that you remember, and you don't necessarily remember the rocket of a slap shot that he's got.
Yeah,
from
exactly.
The point,
Exactly.
So,
and we're not paying him to become like a shutdown D. We're paying him to become a Norris candidate based on the points he puts up, right?
Yep.
Lonnie, what were you going to say?
I was going to throw out some completely baseless and totally unfounded speculation and conjecture for you guys. For the small segment of the population that believes there is internal issues in the Wild locker room that could be traced back as recently as a year or two ago to a schism between the youth and the veterans.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any chance that Dumba's new contract kind of emboldens him and kind of shifts the I don't want to say the balance of power, but just kind of shifts how things go in the locker room relative to the vets and the youngsters? Any thoughts on that?
Tony, what do you got?
Maybe in Dumba's own mind, it validates him a little bit. Like, he's made it. I am a $6 million player now. I don't know if it's going to change his teammates' thoughts. You're still going to have that divide, is my guess, if there is one, because you still have the vets, the Koivus, the Prezis, the Suitors, and then you still got the young guys that all came up together. I don't see those cliques breaking up. I mean, without a coming to Jesus from Boudreaux or Fenton, I mean, that's not going to change much. But in Dumba's own mind, why wouldn't it give him some validation that he's made it and he's a leader and he's being counted on, all that stuff,
And with the big contract for Dumba, I'm interested to see if Suter will allow him to be the number one power play defenseman.
That's the thing. I think that's the thing to me. I mean, I looking at it, you pull up Cap Friendly and you see Dumba's $6 million deal up there every year for the next 5 years. But then you know what? After it expires, there's still minimum of 2 more years on the Suter contract.
Yeah.
So it's unless Dumba starts mowing Leopold's lawn or whatever, or vice versa.
He's got to buy a junior team with him.
Exactly.
I mean,
right? Yeah. So I mean, he's got to get Sagasor to come over and start holding his hand through all these deals. And I mean, I don't think that. I mean, I'm going to take a more cynical approach to that, and I'm going to say that's not. I don't think Suter is going to let that happen. Lonnie.
No, and I think even I would be fine with Dumba leading the second power play, or at least being on that second power play and just making it more even time. I mean, I think there's ways that Boudreaux can massage that a little bit, where it's even 10, 20 seconds here or there on power plays and even that timeout, instead of letting them sit out there for a minute and a half on a power play, and then you give up a shorthanded goal going the back way because they're dead. They're dead tired. But
haven't we heard before that Suter comes on and off when he wants to?
Yeah, there is that.
And nobody on this team can fire the puck the way Dumba can. I don't care what anybody says.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, what's interesting to me is that I don't know that Zucker necessarily commands more power play time, because his advantage is his speed off the wing, right? And you don't get that type of, Christ, half the time we're dumping and chasing on the power play, So I don't know that.
Would speed help then, or there or not? Like, I don't know enough about the X's and O's of hockey, but I mean, I would think speed would help a little bit. No.
I think the more track he has, the more advantage, the more he can press that advantage. But
yeah,
but I don't know. I don't know that he's necessarily gonna. I don't know that this deal gets him the power play. Also, I just don't know that there's the room on the power play net for him at this point, given who we know is going to be out there on the front end. But one thing I do like about the Zucker contract is he's under Granlund. I think that shows that he really did want to be here. I mean, he wasn't. Yeah. He's a $250,000 a year cap hit under Granlund's deal, and that's and the same amount above Nino's deal. But he scores more than Nino, so That's I like that aspect of the Zucker deal. So I think it's an interesting question, Lonnie.